Listening Library presents Vanishing Act by John Feinstein. Read for you by the author. Chapter 1. I Am from SC Devil. Stevie Thomas knew he needed a shower, but as usual, he couldn't resist sitting down at his desk to see if any of his friends had emailed while he had been out playing golf with his dad. It was a hot, humid August day, and walking 18 holes had worn him out. "You aren't even 14 yet," his dad had said as Stevie slowly climbed the last hill on the 18th hole at Bluebell Country Club. "You aren't supposed to get tired." Stevie would be 14 in September, but he was tired. He had played pretty well. Breaking 90 always made him happy, but a hot shower and a nap before dinner was all he wanted right now. First, though, he would check his emails. He signed on to his computer. His sign-on was Kid Writer, and had begun trolling through the spam and notes from friends when he heard a ringing sound that told him he had an instant message coming in. When he saw who it was from, he smiled. "What are you up to?" was the opening question from SC Devil. "Just played golf with my dad," he answered. "Too hot." The response came back almost before he had sent his reply. "It is a balmy 99 here. Heat index much worse than that." Stevie could imagine what it was like in Goldsboro, North Carolina, given how hot it was in Philadelphia. "What are you doing?" he asked. Susan Carol Anderson, a.k.a. SC Devil because she was a fanatic fan of Duke, a basketball team Stevie had only recently learned not to hate, was a month younger than Stevie, but at least the last time he had seen her in April, a good 4 inches taller and much older looking too. Still, not long after they had met in New Orleans during the Final Four, Stevie had conceded to himself that he had a crush on her. He told no one, not even his dad, in part because she was too tall for him, in part because he wasn't going to admit a crush on anyone at this point in his life. Stevie and Susan Carol had been the winners of a writing contest that had earned them each a trip to the Final Four, complete with press credentials. It was the most unbelievable thing that had ever happened to Stevie. Literally. Soon after arriving, they had stumbled across a plot to blackmail Chip Graber, Minnesota State's star point guard, to throw the national championship game. They had managed to foil the plot, allowing Graber to dramatically hit the winning shot in the championship game against Susan Carol's beloved Duke Blue Devils. Even she had admitted to being happy with that outcome. Stevie and Susan Carol had gotten a lot of media attention for their involvement, what his father called their 15 minutes of fame. They even got to go on Letterman together. That was the last time he had seen her, but they IM'd all the time. Now she was typing a long answer to his question about what she was doing, and Stevie could almost see her smiling at him through the computer screen. "Really exciting news," she said. "I convinced the sports editor at the Fayetteville paper to credential me to go to U.S. Open tennis next week. School doesn't start until week after. Dad and Mom said I can stay with my uncle in Manhattan." Stevie stared at the screen, instantly envious of the instant message. He knew Susan Carol loved tennis almost as much as she loved basketball. He was more into golf than tennis, but he did follow it, even though his father insisted the game hadn't been the same since the retirements of John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors. He was too young to remember either of them as players, but he thought McEnroe was good on television. His favorite tennis player, by far, was Nadia Symanova. He had a poster of her hanging over his bed to prove it. She was another in the recent line of gorgeous Russian players, following in the footsteps of Anna Kournikova and Maria Sharapova, among others, who had shot up in the world rankings. She was 16 and had been the talk of Wimbledon after getting into the semifinals, only to lose in 3 sets to Venus Williams. Stevie did not have a crush on Symanova. That would have implied that he knew her or might somehow have a chance someday to even meet her. What's more, if Susan Carol was too tall for him at 5'8", then what was Symanova, who was 6 feet tall? Besides, every time Stevie picked up a magazine, he saw Symanova walking into or out of a party with some movie star or famous young athlete. Now, Susan Carol was going to go to New York and see Symanova and the rest of the U.S. Open from up close. "Great news," he finally typed. He thought for a second and then added, "I'm jealous." Susan Carol's answer came flying back. You should go too. He was baffled by that one. How? He answered. Easy. Write to Kelleher. I still have his email if you don't. Ask him to help you get a credential. You can help him or something. He knows everyone. It wasn't a bad idea. Bobby Kelleher was a columnist for the Washington Herald who had helped Stevie and Susan Carroll immensely in New Orleans. The chances were good he would be covering the Open. Worth a shot, he wrote back. What's his email? She sent it to him. uva0.9@aol.com. He actually knew what that meant because Kelleher had told him that when he played basketball at the University of Virginia, his career scoring average had been 0.9 points per game. I'll let you know, he said. Tell your parents you can stay with me at my uncle's apartment, she wrote back. He's divorced, so he has lots of room. Another good idea. His parents certainly wouldn't let him go to New York for a week and stay in a hotel alone. And he knew neither of his parents could take a week off from work since they had just gotten back from vacationing at the beach. Staying in Susan Carroll's uncle's apartment had one other benefit. He would get to spend more time with her. He just hoped she hadn't gotten any taller. Stevie sent the email to Kelleher, asking him to write him back whenever he got a chance. The Open started in 5 days. He was afraid he might be asking too late. A couple of hours later, he was sitting on the family room couch watching his favorite TV show, Daily News Live. The show aired on weekdays and featured Michael Barkan and 3 sports writers, different ones each day, from the Philadelphia Daily News. Stevie liked the show for 2 reasons. First, the Daily News guys always had opinions and were very willing to share them, even to the point of occasionally shouting at guests while asking them questions. Second, he knew several of the show's regulars. Dick Girardi had been the first reporter to help him out when he began trying to go to local sporting events and learn about journalism. Through Girardi, he had met writers he had read locally for years, including the deans of Philadelphia sports journalism, Bill Conlon and Stan Hochman of the Daily News, and Bill Lyon of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Girardi had even invited him to sit on the set during the show once and introduced him to Barkan. Conlon and Girardi were having a heated debate about whether or not baseball players who use steroids should be in the Hall of Fame when Stevie's mom walked into the living room carrying the phone. He had been so caught up in the show he hadn't heard it ring. "It's Bobby Kelleher," she said. Surprised, Stevie took the phone. "Let me guess," Kelleher said without saying hello. "Susan Carroll figured out a way to get to the Open, and you want to come too." Stevie felt his face flush. "How'd you know that?" he said. "I remember how my mind worked when I was a teenager," Kelleher said. "Actually, it was her idea that I contact you," Stevie said. "I didn't know you had my phone number." "You gave it to me in New Orleans, remember?" Kelleher said. "Anyway, she's a smart girl, because not only can I get you in, but I'd be happy to have you come up and give me some help the first week." "Wow," Stevie said, forgetting for an instant that he was trying very hard to remove that word from his vocabulary. "You're sure you can do that?" "Easily," Kelleher said. "The guy who runs public relations for the USTA is an old friend, Ed Fabricus. In fact, he's a Philly guy, worked at Penn for years. I'll bet he knows just who you are. It won't be a problem at all. My guess is Fab's only condition will be that he gets to meet you guys." Stevie had been amazed after the Letterman appearance how often people recognized him. He had become an instant celebrity in school. Even Andrea Fassler, the 8th grade girl every 8th grade boy wanted to go out with, had started being friendly to him. But a lot of that had faded with time, and he heard himself laughing at the notion that the USTA's public relations honcho would want to meet him. "Well, if you really can get me in," he said. "Consider it done," Kelleher said. "I'll send you an email with my cell phone number and all the details, since my guess is you're watching Daily News Live right now and you don't have a pen." "How'd you know that?" "Because whenever I'm in Philly, I watch it too. I'll see you Monday."